Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Private Property Farming Podcast. My name is Mbali Nwoko, your host every Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Farming Podcast. Thank you so much for watching us this evening. I'm excited because I've got a guest that I've always wanted to have onto the show, and I think it's just perfect timing, especially considering the very, very tough week that we've come from. So for those that have experienced food shortages, maybe this is an opportunity for you as well to start growing your own food. And Lynn, our guest this evening, has the fantastic solutions for your own small gardening project or a small scale farm, especially if you want to go high tech using hydroponic farming. As always, if you have any questions for the guest, please send your comments through and we will answer the questions live on the show. If you missed today's episode, you can always catch us on our Private Property YouTube channel under the Farming Podcast playlist, and that's where you could find my conversation with Lynn this evening. Without further ado, I just want to bring in Lynn into the show. Thank you so much for joining us, Lynn. How are you doing?
Thank you, Mabali. Thank you for the opportunity, and to all the listeners this evening. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be part of your show. Doing very well. We're very cold in Cape Town, but otherwise we're good.
Yeah, it's also cold up here in Johannesburg. But it's lovely to see you and catch up once again. And I'm just excited for our conversation. Yeah, so for people that don't know you who are watching this podcast, please just introduce yourself. And you have quite an interesting business. So please tell us a bit more about NFT Hydro.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mabali. So I am one of the directors of NFT Hydro. I'm responsible for exports and the daily operations of NFT Hydro. We were founded in about 2013 when our other director, that's my husband, met somebody that basically told him about hydroponics. And that's how the journey started. And at that stage, I was working for the Big Four auditing firms, one of the Big Four auditing firms, and I wanted nothing to know about hydroponics. I thought my husband was mad, and I wouldn't listen to anything that he had to say about it. Basically, forward about 6-7 years now, we started extruding our own hydroponic systems, and we now manufacture and grow commercial, semi-commercial, and small home grower systems that we design and sell to customers across the world, basically. So hydroponics, for those that haven't been introduced to the concept, is basically meaning working water. So instead of growing in soil, you actually grow in water with some nutrients. And the systems, the NFT systems, which stands for Nutrient Film Technology, is basically the nutrients that is in the water recirculating in a closed loop system. Hydroponics is basically popular, especially in arid countries where there's, in deserts, there's not enough water, because the only water that you will be using is the water that the plants drink. Because the system is in a closed loop, you don't really lose any water except for what the plants uptake. It creates the perfect recipe in the nutrients for the plant to drink from. So what you will find that in comparison with soil growing, the plant in soil will use its roots to go and search for the food in the soil. In hydroponics, the plant has all the food that it needs at the roots. So what happens is that the plant's energy goes into the leaves Instead of in the soil, it goes into the root searching for the food. So what you will get is that your plants grow a lot quicker in hydroponics. It's also very popular because there's no weeding. You don't have to bend down and dig in the soil. And that's probably why it's very popular with all our lady growers around the world, really, because you work at a level that's easy. Harvesting is easy. Propagating is a lot easier. So there's a lot of benefits and of hydroponics in comparison with soil growing, and that's probably why we're seeing such a big uptake in hydroponics across Africa and the world.
Wow, this is such an amazing concept. And I like the fact that, the water keeps recirculating
Yes.
and, the plant is not dependent on soil because we have to save our natural resources, but keep reusing the water. But Lynn,
Yeah.
I'm a hydroponic farmer, but I know that, the way I farm from a hydroponic perspective is different to the systems that you are selling and manufacturing. So
Okay.
I pretty much grow in a black growing bag. I put in some sawdust and I put my plant, and then I obviously feed my plants through the drip system, right?
Yeah.
And every single season, I have to change those bags and the sawdust, right? Which is quite capital intensive. However,
Yes.
I know that your systems are completely different, and it could be a bit difficult to describe to an audience watching.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll be able to check onto your website after this conversation. But please just tell us the benefits, rather, of the type of hydroponic systems you manufacture, which is, I believe, come within a PVC pipe, correct?
That's right. So basically, we extrude our own hydroponic profiles. Some people call them gutters. Some people call them grower systems. Ours is specifically extruded with a very, very high UV content. It's got 3 millimeters thick walls, which means that even a lady grower can just pick up that profile and easily carry it to the harvesting area in the greenhouse. It has a ribbed extrusion inside, which means you don't need to use net pots to put your grow medium in. It's very specifically designed for harsh African environments and extruded specifically for hydroponics. So our systems is basically, as you said earlier on, it's and we discussed earlier on, it's in a closed loop system, which means the water just keeps on recirculating within that. And you will only basically about every 3 months will you dump your entire nutrient tank in order to get fresh water and fresh nutrients back in there. This is done so because the plants uptake all the good nutrients and then they leave, other nutrients. So at some point, you're going to have to just take that water and just replace it. But that's basically just about every 3 months. So you can see why it would be popular in countries, in desert countries, people grow on rooftop farms. It's become very, very popular. Johannesburg has got a lot more rooftop farms than what we have here in Cape Town, certainly. And, it creates food security. And the thing about hydroponics is you can literally put your system down anywhere. And there's always a lot of talk about, I need land to grow. Not necessarily with hydroponics, because you can go and rent a rooftop. And if your rent expired, you can simply pick up your system. Obviously, you'd have to sell your plants before you pick up your system, and you can move it to a different area or into an old factory growing under LED lights. So no longer do we have to go and plow the lands. We can actually go and rent a property, and if it's no longer viable or your rent is up, you just simply move your systems to a new area and put it up, and you start growing. So that has sincerely and certainly changed the landscape for starting a fresh produce business. And we see many of our clients using our smaller system, which is basically the 114. It's a very small system. It's very affordable, but it's certainly helps business, and then scale up from there as the demand for the fresh produce is growing, meaning that you stay profitable. You didn't spend R1 million on a big system, and you've got to catch up the whole time in order to make your profit. So we've really thought about having systems that is affordable to people, having systems that is affordable, that is scalable to full commercial setup over time. So our business is very much, I always say to new clients, anybody can sell a piece of plastic pipe to grow in. Our business is all about, if I sell you a hydroponic system, it is extremely important that I teach you, or our company teaches you, how to grow. So that's a value-added service that we offer. We don't charge for that. So we grow with you, no matter where you are, and making sure that we take you through several harvests to make sure that you grow successfully and that you are using that system to grow, to add to food security as well as job creation. Because as you scale up, you may need to employ some people. And I think we all know what has happened to our economy and the economy around the world with COVID. Certainly fresh produce and setting up a hydroponic business is a sure way of getting some income in.
Yeah, and with the starter kit for the home grower or the small scale farmer, should a person purchase that starter kit growing system? Do you come and assemble it for them? Is the assembling the actual frame part of the cost price? And then also, how much electricity and water would I have to use? I know that you said the water recirculates, but maybe how many liters would I have to start off with that starter kit frame or system? And roughly, does it consume a lot of electricity, or can I buy, I don't know, a battery and just make sure that the pump maybe is kept running to circulate the water?
Okay. So yes, as you're saying that the water recirculates, it's only what the plant actually drinks, that is used. So on a daily basis, every morning you would come in and you would certainly check because obviously you don't want your water to go right down. And it's simply the plants don't drink at the hottest time of the day. They will certainly only uptake what they need. Mm-hmm. And this is the great thing about hydroponics, is that there's such a minimal usage for the water. The plants need a little bit of nutrients. It's not a massive cost on a monthly basis, especially on our smaller systems, which is kit systems. One of our most popular kit systems is a 416 system. And it is a full kit system, so literally plug and play, and you can actually start growing. Mm-hmm. So that system, the 416 system, it's 3 meters by 3.8 meters long. That it comes with everything that you need. So the nice thing about that is, of course, you realize that you can't actually travel around the world to go and set up people's systems. Also, I mean, nobody's going to buy a system and it's going to cost them 12,000 Rand, and then they're paying you another 12,000 Rand to fly there to actually go and set up the system. So what we've done is, we've developed this over time to ensure that people can set up remotely without any issues. So our technical department has created technical instructions which basically mimics exactly what the system is, and it's color coded. So you've got high side blue, mid is yellow, low is green, because it's slanted like that. The systems are slanted so the water can easily run down back into the tank and then recirculate it up. So the actual system is color-coded to the technical instructions. So it's a little bit like Lego blocks. So you just literally click it together, and probably about 60% of our clients are lady growers. So we've really, really made sure that it really just clicks together, that it's easy to set up and easy to use. For the 416 system that I was talking about, which has basically got 20 of our grower profiles or hydroponic profiles with a frame, a pump, the air pump, the water tank. So a real full kit system that somebody can start, plug and play and start growing. And that system is also fully scalable to commercial growing over time. So that really allows a person to start a small little business, start selling the fresh produce to Spa, and then scale up from there. You asked me about the electricity use. It's the pumps that is used, and the little air pump, it is absolutely minimal amount of electricity. It gets pumped up and the water runs down to the low side, returns back in, and that takes a few kilowatts a month, and it's really just not a huge amount of cost per month. The nutrients, which is your other a kind of cost in the month, also is a little bit that you will use to mix in such a small system. So we've really thought about making it affordable for people, so that people can start a fresh produce business without having to go to the bank and take out a massive loan that takes a very long time to apply for and is a big burden to pay back.
Yeah. Thank you for that detailed explanation of just how the system works. It really helps a great deal. Lynn, we've got a question here from Mpal One, and he or she says, what about root veggies, example, potatoes and carrots? So the NFT Hydro system, can I just grow any type of vegetables on the system, or is it favorable to root veggies or only leafy crops?
Okay, so we, Bali, we've got a couple of systems. The ones that we were discussing earlier on, so the NFT with a sort of long grower profile. Those are for leafy greens, herbs, lettuce, bok choy. You can grow a mixture of those kind of leafy greens on that system. It's a very shallow profile, so you can imagine if you had a plant that was very big, with a big root system, that you will block that NFT profile up very quickly with the roots. So a huge amount of, at some stages I grow edible flowers, leafy greens, basil, herbs, all together on that very specific system. So it's very flexible in that, but it is for your smaller plants. Then for your bigger plants, like potatoes, say cucumbers, peppers, chilies, we've got what we call the NFT Hydro base system, which is basically also a closed loop recirculation, but it's a drip system that drips onto coir or perlite, but it gets returned in the system. So that, and like you, using 25-liter black plastic bags on top of the NFT Hydro base, but the water recirculates. That means that the plant can stay in that system for a lot longer because there's a lot more root space. And you can grow a variety again of various peppers and cucumbers and tomatoes, even some snap peas. So that's our bigger system for bigger plants, and that's quite popular. Again, same as with the NFT system that we use for leafy greens. the NFT Hydro base is also scalable. We've got a small system that has just 10 bases on it. Then we've got a system with 20 bases, and then scalable again onto full commercial growing with that as well. And then we've got our last type of system, which is for microgreens. So that is a very popular system with our lady growers. It's basically seeds scattered in an open NFT profile, and 5 to 10 to 15 days, seed type dependent, you can start harvesting the first true leaves of the plant, which of course is very tasty, very nutritious, because it's just the first true leaves and it's packed with vitamins and packed with flavor. And I'm sure everybody has seen that before. The chefs love it, decorating plates, beautiful pansies get grown, it's part of the sort of salad mix. So we've seen quite a uptake in that as well, because it's a high yield crop, and it's very quick before you can basically have something in the shelves of Spar, if you're going to grow for Spar, who loves our clients, by the way. So that is very popular. And again, you literally harvest your little microgreens, and within, as I say, 10, 15 days, depending on how big you want to let them grow, you could have something on the shelves of Spar.
Right. If you're catching us this evening and have just joined us, we are speaking to Lynn Gunning, the director of NFT Hydro, and they manufacture and export hydroponic grower solutions and provide many other solutions specific to hydroponic for growers, whether you're small scale farming in your garden or really have the aspirations of running a commercial hydroponic farm. Lynn, I just want to find out with the NFT system as well. You said, I think they're called profiles, not gutters, or you know, a lot of people have different terms for it.
Different names, yes.
Yeah. How long do they last? And what is it that you need to do to make sure that you clean it, just in case there's any fungi that stays in the gutters, etc. So if I invest in one system, how long will it last me? And what do I have to do to clean the gutters?
Okay, that's a very good question, Mabali. Thank you for that. So basically, what we recommend is that we talk about controlled agricultural environment that we need to grow in. So a lot of people use greenhouses to put their NFT systems in, or the hydroponic systems for growing larger vine crops and even the microgreens. That controlled environment means that you can control what comes into your environment with regards to insects, with regards to heat, with regards to diseases in there. So ultimately, depending on what you can afford, it is best to have a greenhouse or at least a netted structure that would protect your crop in more than one way. It just stops, like I said, insects from coming in and pests coming in. So a greenhouse structure is ultimately what you would want. Our profiles, because it's been extruded with an extremely high UV content, and we did that very specifically, the NFT profiles, or as people call them, gutters, or, we manufacture that with very, very high UV content so that it can last up to 10 years and more. The walls are 3 millimeters thick, and as we discussed a little bit earlier on, is that the length of the profiles is 3.65 meters. So even for all our lady growers, it's easy enough to, when you want to harvest, to hook your fingers into the plant sites or the hole, tip it to let the water run out, and you can carry it to the harvesting area. You can do it by yourself. You don't need 10 workers to assist. It's easy enough because the profile is so rigid. For us, it's also important, if somebody is investing in our hydroponic equipment, I certainly would not want a person to phone me after a year to say, Lynn, your stuff is now broken and it's, smashed and it's cracked because, it's just bad quality. And because we've taken huge amount of pride in going all this length and spending that money and doing the tooling to extrude properly in equipment that kind of represents of what we want to say about NFT Hydro is quality. We grow with you. We make sure that you use our systems for what it's meant for. So, and then with regards to pest control, what we teach our clients is every day, even if you've got a small little greenhouse or if you're growing commercially, you are going to enter your greenhouse and you are going to walk the length of your greenhouse and observe. You're going to scout, you're going to pull out your plants and have a look at the roots and make sure that they are white and bright, because that is really one of the first areas where you can detect any diseases or that your plants are not happy. You're going to look for any brown spots on your white NFT profiles, meaning that there is some kind of insects. And you will also spot that on the sticky cards, which is basically will tell you the amount of insects, because the insects get stuck on a sticky card. So that's a good way of actually identifying if there's any pests in your greenhouse. I suppose it's much as farming in the soil. You've got to be there every day. You can't just walk away and come back 2 weeks later, and you will find problems if you don't look into your greenhouse on a daily basis. And I always specifically for big projects as well, I always talk to my clients and I say, your greenhouse is not a museum. You're not inviting 20 people to come and look at it and walk in out, and your dog or your external plants are being brought in. You are certainly going to be bringing in some diseases into your greenhouse. You will bring in some pests. So it's a very, very clinical area that needs to be kept clean and need to be observed all the time. And then you asked me about basically earlier on just cleaning the profiles and making sure that things are clean. So what we do recommend is that after every round of growing and when you're harvesting, that you take those profiles out, your NFT profiles out, and you high pressure hose them completely outside, or you brush them out with a gutter brush, just to make sure that any possible diseases, because especially if you're growing on a commercial scale in a 10 by 30 meter greenhouse, you have between 9,000 to 12,000 plants. If you lose that crop, that's a significant amount of plants to lose. And also, if you are providing and you have a contract with somebody that you're providing to, all of a sudden there's 12,000 plants that you cannot actually sell. So observing those protocols and making sure that there's somebody there every day, to look after the plants, you still need to do that. You can't just walk off.
Yeah. Just to conclude our conversation, Lynn, this evening, I think you mentioned it before as you were speaking, but how quick can one expect to harvest? Maybe if they're growing herbs or just leafy crops like lettuce and spinach. I know in my world, it takes weeks for a crop to be ready for harvest, but using the NFT system or profile, how quick does it take for one to harvest?
Okay. So very interesting question, Mabali. Thank you. So basically it depends on what sort of crop type you're obviously growing, because bok choy is going to take a bit longer than, say, for example, arugula rocket. So what we do is we propagate outside of the NFT system. So we will use a grow medium like Jiffy that probably most people are familiar with, or ACES grower foam, which is another substrate. And we will grow in trays outside of the system and basically propagate, put your seeds in and water from the top down. Let the water run out the bottom, which is important, which creates basically a suction effect that pulls the oxygen in behind the plant. And the oxygen actually determines the strength of the plant for the rest of their lives. So that's quite interesting. And then We transfer only to the NFT system when the roots are really, really well developed at the bottom. So we're talking about 4 weeks, two to 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, crop type dependent, before you can harvest. Like I say, your rocket is very quick. We also teach our clients how to optimize. You're using 3 or 4, 5 or 6 seeds per Oasis block or Jiffy. And, when those little seeds are starting to sprout, you pull out the weakest ones, you lose the 3 or 4 strongest ones in there. Trends that we've seen is that people no longer, they're looking at bite-sized leaves, which means that you're harvesting a lot quicker than a big, huge iceberg lettuce, for example. Those are some of the trends that we're seeing across the world. I call them rude food, that massive leaf that's just so big that you need 5 people to eat it. So we've seen a lot of bite-sized, so the kind of lettuce leaves, and then our clients do a lot of bright colors, beautiful burgundy with yellow, with spotted pink and white lettuce leaves. So there's a lot of trends that's happening in the fresh produce business that's really, really interesting. So to answer your question, because people don't necessarily all grow the big iceberg anymore, the big, huge leaves, your harvest is a lot quicker. It also depends on how much you propagate outside of the system. And I always teach my clients, the more you propagate on a weekly basis, the more bigger plants you'll have that move into the system, which you create a continuous loop of coming back into the system with plants all the time. So that's a bit of a grow method that we teach our clients, to just optimize your growing and just continuously having plants coming through that system, that there's never a gap in your growing.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And just hearing you talk about it, it seems so efficient. And less dirty compared to the environment I'm exposed to. But thank you so much, Lynn, for all the information you've provided us this evening. I wish to have you back onto the show maybe in a few months' time, maybe to discuss other elements around hydroponic farming and your NFT profiles that we didn't get the chance to chat about this evening. But thank you so much for your time. And I really wish you the best of success for NFT Hydro.
Thank you very much, Mabali. It's been an absolute honor to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for the exposure and being able to be on the show with you. It was lovely, and we would certainly hope to come on again, and then maybe we can do a bit of a more show and a tell. We can showcase some of our NFT profile systems. We can show what the grow medium looks like and how the plants actually grow through that. And I think for our younger generation, just to inspire people to start their own fresh produce businesses, because, being in the coal face of this is basically, you see how people just develop their businesses and how well they do and making good money off growing fresh produce.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll definitely be in touch. That was Lynn Gunning, Director of NFT Hydro. If you missed our conversation this evening, please go straight to our YouTube channel, Private Property Farming Playlist, and find this episode. I think it's episode 73 of the Farming Podcast. Lynn definitely drops some major gems around hydroponic systems, hydroponic farming, and most importantly, the profiles that they offer as a company, in which you could start off with. I mean, they have a starter kit for your own personal growing, your small scale growing, and if you have the desire or aspirations to go on a commercial level, they could definitely assist as well. I think what stood out for me with Lynn is that as much as their system sounds very technical, and especially if you haven't been exposed to hydroponic farming, they also provide value-added services at no cost, which is assisting you to grow to perfection, assisting you to understand and perfect your growing process with the NFT Hydro systems. And so it's not as if you're buying a starter kit or the profiles and they leave you out to dry. They'll definitely walk the journey in terms of how you can grow and optimize growing in those NFT Hydro systems. If you'd like to contact Lynn, please go directly to their website, www.nfthydro.co.za. All their details are there. And I know that the website is quite detailed where they show the different types of systems that you can invest in, which obviously fits into your budget. Thank you so much for your comments, your questions this evening. And thank you so much for continuing to support the Farming Podcast. I will see you on Thursday and with another lovely guest. Stay tuned in our socials to see what topic we'll be discussing then. Take care. That's it from me tonight.